I was working briefly at some school in Brooklyn, I think, helping their band director. I don't know what I was doing, honestly. All I remember is that I found a banjo in a closet, and he was like, "What is that
As
in there?"
one does, yeah.
Yeah, he's right. He's like, "Why do we have this?" And I was like, "I could take it off your hands." And he's like, "Yeah, take it away." And then I was like, "Cool, I have a banjo now."
Excellent. Welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party, your weekly musical happy hour where musicians pick an album from their back catalog and tell the stories behind their favorite tracks in front of a live online audience.
This week, we talk with singer, songwriter, and saxophonist LAAMAR and revisit his 2013 album, Oh July, recorded with his earlier Brooklyn-based band, Jus Post Bellum. We talk about his journey from jazz to indie folk, crafting songs rooted in historical fiction, and the embarrassing amount of wool clothing and fedoras that went into making the tintype album art. So pour a beverage, grab a snack, and kick back as we listen to music together here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, where it's always Friday and old albums never sounded better. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
Oh, hello. I'm Joffrey, a.k.a. LAAMAR.
Joining us from his home in North Minneapolis. We're on the south side, and we have folks tuned in from all over the place. Alinda joining us first to the party today from New Haven, Connecticut.
Hey, Linda.
And we have Tamara.
All right.
With
Thanks
Chris.
for being here tonight.
And they're having an Uda Pils in Savage, Minnesota. Good local brew. Connie saying hello from Richfield. And we're here in South Minneapolis. It's a lovely summery day, and I'm enjoying a rosé because it's, a nice summer evening. And Tony, are you enjoying any kind of beverage?
Yeah, I'm kind of going, I got the summer vibes too. I got this Trail Magic mimosa. It's like a THC infused beverage, and it tastes extra delicious in my Back Catalog Listening Party pint glass.
Nice. I know that one, the 3 milligram, you can still function.
Exactly. Anymore, and it would be a different kind of hour.
Yes. Yeah. What is time? Has it been an hour?
I know. Joffrey, are you, do you have any kind of beverage happening?
I was going to drink this hazy IPA I have in my fridge, but it's like 9.5%.
Oh,
that might be post.
I might be really, non-responsive. So I'm drinking a lovely kombucha.
Nice.
Excellent. Well, cheers, Joffrey, and cheers, Ellen, and cheers to all of you out there. This is our weekly musical happy hour where we get together and listen to old records, and it's more fun when everybody's joining the party. So if you're out there listening live, make sure you put your questions and your comments in the real-time chat. We'd love to have you part of the party.
Yeah, for sure. And we are very excited to have Joffrey joining us. Many folks around these parts will know him better as LAAMAR. That's what he performs under. But your given name, Joffrey LAAMAR Wilson. So LAAMAR, you pull from your middle name. But we're going to be revisiting a record you made under a completely different name, which is not part of your given name. Jus Post Bellum. No. I think that would be a very bulky middle name if that was a part of your.
It was a bulky band name as it was, so yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about an older project of yours, which we're really excited about. But for folks who maybe are a little less familiar with you or your music, maybe you can give a quick 2-minute origin story of like where you grew up and how you fell into making music.
Sure. Yeah, I grew up here in the Twin Cities. My dad's a drummer, and so I think becoming a musician was sort of inevitable. But yeah, I was born and raised in North Minneapolis until middle school. My dad had a soul band, like an 8-piece soul band, which practiced in our basement. So I just kind of grew up with that. I started playing saxophone in elementary school, and eventually, once I was good enough to be like the third horn in the soul band, I would get to sit in every once in a while and play some gigs with them at Famous Dave's and whatnot.
Nice.
But I've done music since I was a kid, and I grew up in the 90s, so lots of like 90s music and jam bands and R&B, and really saxophone was like my instrument. And I went to college and actually studied saxophone, like jazz performance and composition. So it was just kind of on that track of like, I'm going to play saxophone. And then when I graduated from college, took a couple years and then enrolled in a music therapy program at NYU in Manhattan. And I managed to get in, though I couldn't play guitar, but I guess post-requisite in my case. The requisite of the program was you had to play guitar. So I got a guitar and started to learn to play and play piano. And eventually, probably 2/3 of the way through that program, I realized I liked playing guitar and writing songs more than I liked going to graduate school. So I stopped going to graduate school, and I had started Jus Post Bellum, this band, sort of, in that time, and started writing songs and learning guitar. Just really got caught by the bug and started doing that. And that's kind of how this project kicked off. And I lived in New York and did that until 2016. And then I moved back here with my now wife, my then girlfriend, who's also from here. Moved home after, thinking I'd never leave the East Coast. Like, why would I? I don't know. We were camping upstate New York, and I was like, oh man, it sure is nice to be able to go and get in nature and camp. And wouldn't it be cool to buy a house someday and be closer to families? And we moved here. And it took a few years before I decided I wanted to dip my toes back into being a singer-songwriter-esque person and do this again. But the last few years, LAAMAR kind of became the new thing.
Yeah.
So doing
Great.
Wonderful. Well, I'm really excited to have you here because certainly for folks who are in the Twin Cities, as Tony and I are, you've definitely been making waves in our local music scene, and I've been following what you do, and I love it so much. But I'm really excited to dig back into the origins of LAAMAR a little bit, into this record, and it came out in 2013. And how many albums did you put out with Jus Post Bellum?
We put out 2 records kind of in quick succession. So I don't know how, because now it took 3 years to make a record, but we put out our first record in 2012 and then the second record in 2013. And then played that a bit, and then, kind of tapered off and left that project in the dust. But it's been really sweet to revisit it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we are really excited to check it out. And I guess it's called Oh July, and I guess we're just going to channel those summertime vibes right now. And the first track that you picked to feature from it is the first track on the record, Gimme That Gun. Is there anything you want to say about this song before we take a listen?
I think I would give context to the band and the band name, and sort of that will kind of frame the music in some way for people. Jus Post Bellum is Latin for justice after war. And it's sort of based on this just war theory, which is is there a just resolution to conflict, to war? I was an American studies and literature major, and had particular interest in Black literature. And so this project sort of spurned from, as I was becoming a songwriter, seeking how to sort of frame my creative energy into something that felt resonant. I didn't really want to sing about myself. And I was really interested in sort of antebellum and post-bellum period in America. So I sort of dove into using that as the lens sort of origin of a lot of this music. So just know that when you're listening, sort of the songs are all sort of referential in some way or another to that period of time. I often called it at that time historical fiction. So it was basing songwriting on time, points in time, and characters and things in history, and sort of using creative liberties from there. So a lot of songs are kind of sad. I mean, not unlike my music today. They can sound upbeat, kind of depressing at times. But they often deal with folks that are in or adjacent to Civil War, pre-civil rights in the 60s, but sort of that post-bellum time in America where people were striving to have rights, and really kind of trying to look in a clear-eyed way at the experience of people kind of on both sides of conflict of different races, and imagining that. So it's a sad story about someone, I think, dealing with loss and contemplating in their own life probably. But also very nice to listen to it, and beautiful harmonies from my wife and sister-in-law and mother-in-law.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, let's give it a spin. This is LAAMAR with Jus Post Bellum playing Gimme That Gun here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Oh, give me that gun, give me that gun. can see darkness. Said you're in love with another man. Said that you're leaving me for him. I won't ask no question. Just give me that gun. 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 Lord, I can see darkness. Lord, I can see darkness. Lord, I can see darkness. Lord, I can see darkness.
All right. Jus Post Bellum, LAAMAR's project. That was Gimme That Gun from their 2013 album, Oh July, which we're revisiting today on the back catalog listening party with LAAMAR joining us live. And wow, what a beautiful tune to start a record, folks. Really loving the music. Tamara says sad but beautiful at the same time. And starting with just the vocals, it just has a real almost choral feel, and then all the instrumentation was really interesting and felt very intentional, from the strings to I think was there a banjo in the background and some drums. Tell us a little bit about that arrangement, and was that fully your vision, or is these the collaborators that brought these parts?
Yeah. So the band was made up of two people that I went to undergraduate with who were in the jazz program with me. So an upright bass player and a drummer. And I think, that sort of shines through a lot of the record that they're playing is very, creative, orchestral, that we're playing music that is, often kind of very like shuffling along. They really played with a lot of sort of, tenderness and sensitivity and sort of like listening. Like we talk a lot about listening in the band, and they do a lot of listening. And I was, new to playing guitar, but I was also new to singing. I had never sang in anything before. I never sang in choir, and I never had been a singer. But I really love singing. And so I think around that time, like Fleet Foxes had a big influence on me, sort of these bands that really use a lot of use the voice as a central part of their music. So that song, especially, I think kind of, it echoes some of that sound. And just, my wife and her mom and her sister, they're all singers. And so I kind of had come into this family of singers, and I was like, oh, I sing, and let's sing. And then I think we recorded that in the kind of stairway of their house down in Cannon Falls. It has 2 floors, so it had this kind of cool acoustics, which we then sort of, accentuated. And then, I played some really bad banjo on there. I don't know how to play banjo.
We're
but
always
one note
happy
at a
to hear
time.
any banjo.
Banjo is good banjo. And also, I mean, this, again, because it has such a minimalist feel, you wouldn't want a big, busy banjo part on the song. It would just seem weird. And it would, it would change the song completely if he did
maybe
that.
Like the double time song circle version where you have a ding, 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 ding,
Well, speaking of the rhythms, though, I did notice just that, like, it was really interesting kind of how the drums built up over the course of the song. It was like no drums, and then like beat, like the accents were on spots I wasn't expecting kind of in the beginning, and then they kind of got more regular, and then at the end it was more of a steady march. Was that kind of getting to Ellen's question, like part of the composition, like of the trying to tell the story with that movement of the kind of the instruments building up in that way. Is that something that was conscious that you discussed as a band?
Yeah, I think a lot of these songs have a bit of that sort of composery, orchestral adjacent sort of structure, where I was thinking a lot about sort of like, when to bring elements in and like create dynamics. And the band, again, they're super talented. And so they, I think took those things and run with it. And typically, I'll bring a song to rehearsal and kind of have the song. And then together we sort of build like, they can tell when the crescendos are happening, and then we sort of structure dropping out. And then, we obviously in the studio probably did some work sort of tweaking. All right, what do we really want to like, when do we really want to lean into these quiet moments? When do we really want to like create more lush arrangement feels? But yeah, at the time I was, again, just inspired by bands that were really creating these sort of structured, emotive songs. And some of them really had that. Some were kind of, more traditional folky Americana stuff that was happening at the time too. But
cool. Well, we have these nice pictures of your bandmates. I'm wondering if you could introduce them and let us know who's who and what they're playing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at us. We look so young. This is the Manhattan skyline. There's Daniel Bieber on the left, our bass player. What a charming, beautiful soul from upstate New York. And then Hannah Jensen, my wife, next to me, who sings. Sorry, Daniel Bieber plays upright bass and bowed bass and whatnot. Hannah sang. I sang and played guitar adequately. And then Zach Denham on the right was our drummer.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So for like things like, did I hear a cello in there? Was that?
It was actually a upright bass.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to have this. I had the same question. I wrote down strings.
Yeah. So it was all of you on that track. There wasn't like anybody else. That's great.
No cello on that track. Yeah. Now I play with the cello player often, but this was a lot of bowed bass back in this time, which is really amazing.
And that was really pretty and added a nice texture.
Yeah.
Hey there. Would you like to be part of the live show? Well, become a member of the Back Catalog Listening Party Patreon, and you'll get a backstage pass to weekly online tapings where you can ask the artist questions and participate in the live chat with a fun community of like-minded music nerds. You'll also get a first look at upcoming guests and receive invitations to special live streams and private after parties. So join the party today at patreon.com/Back Catalog Listening Party.
Well, really great stuff. And folks out there tuned in to the live show, if you have any questions for Lamar as we go, feel free to throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll just keep on going with our questions because Tony and I have lots. We always do, especially with music like this that, again, does have such a where every moment really counts. And I think that's something that's really interesting about more minimalist acoustic music is like, you're going to notice that one banjo note or that bowed bass, in a way that you don't when it's a big wall of sound. Probably the biggest wall of sound in that, again, were the voices, which I think was really, really cool.
Well, and along those lines, just another thought I had, what you mentioned kind of this being almost like historical fiction in a way. And I was just curious if like either instrumentation or arrangement wise, you were trying to like evoke any specific things. Like the banjo definitely felt that way to me and the vocals do that too. But was that any sort of creative kind of box that you wanted to put around the project in any way?
Yeah, I think the banjo was probably the one instrument that was like sort of referential to a genre and period. And at that time when I was living in Brooklyn, there was sort of this like folk, one of many, but sort of a folk-ish revival among, sort of people in my generation. And so there were a lot of people like playing folk music and things adjacent to that and playing banjos and washboards. And we didn't lean so far into, like that super specific niche of traditional music, but a lot of folks that we played with were using those instruments, and I was trying to find, something that like had this certain timbre that just kind of sings in that way, that can cut through a mix, also in a very cool way.
Yeah.
And I was working briefly at some school in Brooklyn, I think, helping their band director. I don't know what I was doing, honestly. All I remember is that I found a banjo in a closet, and he was like, "What is that?"
As
in there?
one does, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, he's like, "Why do we have this?" And I was like, "I can take it off your hands." And he's like, "Yeah, take it away." And then I was like, "Cool, I have a banjo now."
Excellent.
Which I only ever had 4 of the 5 strings, but
so do you? I was going to ask, do you still have the banjo?
I
Did it make the move
It's
from
down
New
in my
York?
basement somewhere. Yeah, it's like an old K or something, I think.
So someone else will find it in your closet and be like,
Yeah,
"What's this? A banjo?" And you'll be like, "Have it."
One of my sons will be like, "I never knew Dad played the banjo. Oh, the things he didn't tell us." Yeah.
Well, it sounds fantastic, and this is really fun to revisit this record. The next track you picked to feature on today's show is "Oh July," the title track to the album. Is there anything you want to say about this before we listen?
This song I remember enjoying writing because it was sort of like we were talking about like studying classics, Greek mythology and whatnot, and this was sort of like a quintessential American quest type of adventure song in my mind. It was this very like, man goes out on the high roads and finds adventure, but in my own way. So I remember thinking that was cool, and I was also sort of really into writing poetry at the time, adjacent to song lyrics, and I felt like it was for me at the time a good achievement of like lyrical poetic writing paired with this sort of real rollicking like shuffling drum beat that was like people could dance to as much as you could dance at like an Americana show,
Can sway.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I put some electric guitar. This is around the time I got my first electric guitar too, and I was like, hey, let me put some electric guitar in this song. Now we're really contemporary folk, whatever. Yeah. So I remember being fun, but it's a fun song, I think, and tells a story.
All right. Well, let's give it a spin. This is LAAMAR playing with Jus Post Bellum, and we're going to listen to their song "Oh July" here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Why do you keep my anxious heart awaiting? Call the cavalry, the Yankee boys, giving them hell. All in their woolen suits, the musket fire, the rattling shells. I saw the eagle soaring, you tried to raise the flag. Called for your mother as the bullet struck you in the back. You rode a gelding that shone copper in the rising sun, along the ridges and the rocks above the great canyon. And oh, your legs grew weary, your heavy foot did fall into the night among the echo of coyotes calling. And by my estimation, we both have paid the cost for the living and the love we lost. Tucked in the pages of his Bible, you will find a note penned by a brother for the other and the lives they smoke. Each of them guilty of the crimes that come in times of war, and innocent both in their youth and what the fight was for. Oh, 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 my love, oh, my love, oh, my love. Oh, July, oh, July, oh, July. Oh, suspense, oh, suspense, oh, suspense. Why do you keep my anxious heart awaiting?
Beautiful. And toe
Great
tapping.
ending.
Oh, July,
Yeah.
from Just Post Bellum's album that came out in 2013. And LAAMAR, the songwriter for the project, is joining us tonight on the Back Catalog Listening Party to chat about this record. And, I was thinking when we were listening to that you were talking about how, it's like a story song about kind of the epic hero journey. But it's also interesting because, it does have such a poetic, often story songs are very narrative. And this has a very more, more flowery or ephemeral kind of language, which is kind of lovely.
Yeah. A little less linear, whatever. Yeah. It's funny.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, speaking of the stories, like when you were, setting out to write these songs, were you doing any specific research, kind of just focused on specific topics or things like that? Did you go to the library or whatever, download books from certain authors or poetry from a certain time? I'd love to hear how you kind of gathered the inspiration for these songs.
Yeah. I think often, song ideas would come, and, you guys probably relate to this being songwriters too. Like sometimes you have this idea and like part of what you're doing is trying to pull it into being and understand what it is you're trying to sing about, and like give some shape to it. And sometimes I would then sort of be like, okay, like particularly if a song had some references that I felt needed to be accurate, do a little bit of research. I wrote a song on another record about Eli Whitney, the inventor of the cotton gin.
And, from my hometown of New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah. And so I, for that, I was like, okay, I need to like get some specifics and dates because, 10 years from now, someone might be having me on a podcast and investigating the veracity of these lyrics. But a lot of it was just like having, I've like read a lot of literature, like, historical literature and whatnot. And so sort of often just thinking creatively from that perspective. But yeah, just I love to go down the like now Wikipedia rabbit hole, just like I wonder about this thing, and then like an hour later, you're like, oh man, what page did I start this query on? So just sort of trying to like collect stories and fragments of stories and sort of integrate them into song often.
For these songs, this particular album, Oh July, were they all kind of separate stories, or did you see them as a collection of like a specific sort of overall story or narrative or theme, or were these just the songs that you kind of wrote at the same time?
Yeah, I think songs we wrote at the same time. I think a lot of them, not all of them, but many of them are sort of from a perspective and tend to sort of share a like one general narrative perspective, not necessarily the same narrator, but sort of this point of view. I explored a lot, like I think a lot about patriotism and like the sort of signifiers of patriotism and like sort of this fake patriotism at the time, which is now even more relevant, I think. And I thought a lot about, and similarly like morality and religion. And And so I would find myself falling back into those areas of like people struggling with their innate sense of morality, sort of religious language, and sort of couching decisions in religion that are immoral. And so I think often a lot of the songs sounded the same because of that sort of way of thinking. But I didn't have, maybe I had a couple of sort of narrators in the back of my mind, various young men, I suppose. And although not some of them were written from like a more female perspective, but I don't know. At the time I was just thinking about it all the time. So all the songs kind of came out that way. And it took a long time to sort of shake that off, for how do I just write songs as myself? But this was a great start for like a budding songwriter to be like, okay, I need to frame all of my work in this like sort of container so that I can like focus my creative energy on something that feels good and authentic and not about me and my feelings. But now it's more.
Now it's all about your feelings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's sounding great. Folks are loving the music, and if you're liking it the way we're liking it, it'll sound even better if you hear the high res files like we're doing. So you can buy this album directly from LAAMAR. You can go to Bandcamp to the Jus Post Bellum Bandcamp page, and you can download the high res files. Or I hear you might have. Do you still have vinyl copies of this album?
I still have a couple remaining boxes of vinyl, which I've been trotting around to LAAMAR shows and selling some. So
excellent.
Yeah,
still got a couple boxes. I thought I'd never get through them all, but here we are.
Excellent.
Well, that's great. Now, if someone wanted to purchase some of that vinyl remotely, is that something that you ship out, or is it kind of a in-person purchase only?
I am moving back to shipping now that I have a new record for LAAMAR. I've accepted that I again will have to restart my shipping service in my living room and mail out records. So yeah, I can send them from far. Although if it's in the Twin Cities, there's a chance I would just drop it off because I'm lazy.
Vinyl's a little bit pricier, but you can head over. Is that something they can purchase from Bandcamp then?
Yeah. So the Jus Post Bellum page has that record, and I might try to link the LAAMAR and Jus Post Bellum page and maybe have all the merch on just the LAAMAR page. That would make my life easier.
Yeah.
Well, if you're just listening to the podcast version, we will have links to both those Bandcamp pages and everything else from the show at backcataloglisteningparty.com.
And also we'll have some of those photos that we were looking at earlier of LAAMAR's Jus Post Bellum bandmates as well. So you can check out that. And and this is really cool. This is speaking of some images that you shared with us. And tell us about this photo.
Yeah, so it's funny because so much of the time I feel like a lot of people were just like really investigating these traditional music and traditional practices. And so people were getting into tintype again. And we connected with these two women who were sort of launching their tintype business. And we went up to upstate New York and shot a series of tintypes they had like built into the back of this car, this sort of processing dark room space. So we would shoot these tintypes outside, and one of them obviously became the cover of the record, me and my wife. And they just look so epic, and so also like of that, 2010s, like, folk revival vibe.
Yeah. Got the suspenders.
Yeah, I know. I wore more wool and fedoras and suspenders than I would like to admit.
Oh, hey, man. That was what you do.
Yeah. Well,
it looks very cool.
And I love that, obviously, it adds to this whole kind of like, Civil War era vibe.
Yeah.
And also, I also love that your wife's expression, and yours to a certain extent, but especially hers in this particular image we're looking at, has that like stoic, because when people used to sit for photos, of course, it would be long periods of time. So they always look really stoic in their pictures. And she's really channeling that in a really great way.
It was good. I always had trouble not blinking, but she was pretty good. But yeah, we had to sit for a few minutes for these pictures. So it was a little bit of like, pick your neutral pose and expression and then just hold it as long as you could.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting, seeing these images that are obviously intentionally meant to look like something old. But, if you think back to the times at which you're looking back and the themes of this record to like, the late 19th century, seeing a white woman and a black man next to each other like that would be,
unlikely.
Certainly not in that sort of in that way, sitting side by side. And so I particularly love that image.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to recreate these historical, like, sort of referential images, but distort them into things that wouldn't have very likely happened.
Yeah.
And that was always an interesting element too, like, being black and performing this kind of music among my peers. I think made it interesting for people to receive the songs and the content, in a different way. But, and I guess it's not all that different from what I'm doing now in some sense, but.
Well, that brings up an interesting point about the music that you're making now. Obviously, you moved back to Minnesota, so you weren't you and your wife. So you could still make music with her, but maybe not so much with your Brooklyn bandmates. So when you decided to relaunch or go back to making music and writing songs, did it just start with you? Were you and your wife performing like together? Like, how did you sort of think about restarting the music?
Yeah, it really just started with me. I'd like started keeping voice memos again, having song ideas. And I guess this was around 2019, but I kind of decided I want to play saxophone again because I kind of just stopped playing music.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, I want to play some saxophone. So I would like sit in occasionally with some friends' bands. And then I was like, I want to bust out my loop pedal again and start doing that. And so I kind of kicked off this like solo saxophone looping project for like a year and a half. And I was playing a bunch of shows doing that suddenly. And I was like, oh, I guess this is going to be my new thing, like loop saxophone, which I really love. But then I just had this like nagging, like, oh, but I just want to like pick up the guitar and like write these songs. And I messaged my friend James, who's our drummer, and I was like, James, I think I want to like sing songs again. Will you help me? And I should say I think I played one show sort of randomly, just under some random, nom de plume in like 2018, just to like tip my toes into it. I was like, okay, that kind of felt good, in some loft, and played for some friends. And then I was like, maybe I'm not quite ready. And a couple years later, just the itch comes back. And, but I wasn't sure. I mean, to your question, I wasn't totally sure how I wanted to do it. I mean, I'm still trying to sort out ways to like sing with my partner again. But in some practical manners, we had a 1-year-old at the time and like 2 kids. So we can't both go to band practice. And also I think I needed to just like discover a better way to be a band leader. Like, leading Jus Post Bellum was really challenging for me. Because it was the first time I had like sang and been vulnerable, and like managing my emotions, like as a performer, was really challenging, and remembering the lyrics and like trying to figure out how to play guitar, and then try to manage a band of other very talented musicians. And like, I was booking most of our gigs and planning things, and it was kind of overwhelming. And as much as it was great, it was like I needed a break from that experience and wasn't sure I could hack that. So I'll just say sort of intentionally moved into this, like identifying someone who could support me musically and logistically, and taking my time to like get into it. And also turns out I was, 10 years plus older now, and just more mature and a little more grounded. So it's still evolving. I kind of have this plan to like record a more acoustic record and sing a bunch with my wife and hopefully mother and sister-in-law again, and like get back to those roots in some new way. That feels less challenging now that, our relationship is much older and I'm much older. And
As someone married to a musician who used to play my band, but I can relate to that quite a bit.
You're navigating your relationship and your musical relationship and
childcare all together.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
The Back Catalog Listening Party is brought to you by EFS Publicity. Founded by veteran publicist, promoter, DJ, and musician Ellen Stanley, EFS brings an artist's perspective to the table, working to help clients get to the next level in their career. Services include national and international media campaigns, radio promotions, tour press, crowdfunding, grant writing, and more. Get a quote or set up a consultation today at efspublicity.com. You just put out a new record, in fact, just this past weekend. And folks want to get that, they can go to your Bandcamp page. Is there anything you want to say about the new record? You mentioned that kind of getting back to your own sort of, solo thing. Is there anything else you would want to tell people about it?
Yeah, I mean, it has a broader range of music, which feels more authentic to me. Like it has some country and folk tunes, but it also has some like R&B, soul kind of feeling songs and a little poppy stuff. And so in some way, like what I really struggled towards the end of Jus Post Bellum was like wanting to create a broader range of music and feeling really constrained by sort of this Latin band name and this historical fiction and a specific genre that I just needed to grow out of. So yeah, this record just really represents like me feeling creatively having liberties to just make a bunch of songs that all feel like my songs and have them kind of work together. And I feel like in some ways I've achieved that. So I'm happy to have tried it, not be like, well, this is a country song that doesn't make sense on this record, or this is an R&B song, we can't put that on there. Just put it all out there. So we've got a lot of fun, like local guest artists joining me on songs, Bathtub Sig and Claire Doyle and some other people. And there's kind of something for everyone on the record, I feel like, and hopefully people like more than one of the songs. But
excellent.
Yeah, it's cool.
Wonderful. Well, folks can pick that up again at laamar.bandcamp.com. That's LAAMAR.bandcamp.com. And if you like what you hear, not only can you buy the album, like a physical copy, a vinyl copy, but you can also just download tracks and throw in an extra tip because we want to hear more LAAMAR music. And if you ever want to hear Joffrey sing with his wife again and want to pay for a sitter, that's a great way to do it. Throw something in the tip jar. It goes a long way.
When you buy tracks from Bandcamp, they'll say, oftentimes the artist will just click a box that says pay what you want, And so like you can put whatever he put there, or you can throw a little extra. And I do agree. And I think in this day and age, more than ever, that is also a symbolic gesture to artists to let them know that you appreciate their art and you appreciate their music. Streaming, we don't see much from that, and we lose the contact with the audience. And so you also get to interact in that way, and they get to see your name, and it means a lot. So head on over to laamar.bandcamp.com and throw a little something in the tip jar.
Yes, for sure. And we're going to listen to more music because I am itching to dig back into this Jus Post Bellum release. The next track you picked to feature is Measure of a Man. Is there anything you want to say about this before we listen?
No, it's kind of what the title says. It's like, someone's looking at their own morality and their own self-worth. And I played the song in a lot of places and I still enjoy it.
All right. This is LAAMAR with Jus Post Bellum, playing Measure of a Man here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I wonder about the measure of a man. He's a fool, does he know the life he's under? What he's holding in the palm of his hand. All of my life I waited for you to come. The devil keeps coming and a man can't always run. Your daddy played possum and your mama, she carries a gun. And I'm lost, I'm a wildfire burning. I'm a voice in the devil's chorus. I'm a dog, I'm a sleepy morning. I'm love and I'm coming without warning. Well, Jessie was a keeper and your mama was a sleeper, she was. Caught him by the creek playing cowboys in India. I followed that river till the sun fell through the pines. And all my life I wonder about the measure of a man. He's a fool, does he know the life he's under? What he's holding in the palm of his hand. I'm lost, I'm a wildfire burning. I'm a voice in the devil's chorus. I'm a dog, I'm a sleepy morning. I'm love and I'm coming without warning. I'm lost, I'm a wildfire burning. I'm a voice in the devil's chorus. I'm a dog, I'm a sleepy morning. I'm love and I'm coming without warning. I'm lost, I'm a wildfire burning. I'm a voice in the devil's chorus. I am a dog, I'm a sleepy morning. I'm love and I'm coming without warning.
All right. Jus Post Bellum with Measure of a Man from their 2013 album, Oh July, which we are revisiting today on the back catalog listening party with the band's leader, Joffrey Lamar Wilson, better known as LAAMAR, joining us. And Tamara says this is a timeless song. Mm-hmm. I was actually thinking the same thing. I was thinking, a lot of these songs on this record, as you said, are kind of inspired by kind of a certain time in American history and some of the themes, but that song itself could have happened anywhere, and it feels like these are all the questions that we all ask ourselves as humans, right?
Yeah.
And it's so catchy. One of the things I was thinking about when I heard this song is, and listening to all of these songs, I mean, you mentioned Fleet Foxes as especially at the time you were making this, kind of influential and that kind of sort of indie folk revival. But what kind of books were you reading? Because obviously you mentioned that you were, a liberal arts major and studying history and Black literature. Were there any books that you were reading at this time that were really influential in terms of either fiction or nonfiction?
Yeah, I think they're kind of like two piles of books. Like a lot of, like Black fiction from, like Harlem Renaissance era in the 30s through like the 50s and 60s. A lot of like James Baldwin, and even more contemporary people like Toni Morrison and whatnot. And then sort of parallel to that, folks like Hemingway or F. Scott Fitzgerald, who are sort of exploring like, what is Americanness like, and what are these sort of American narratives? So not really literature, there were some like slave narrative type of things too that I read in time, to really understand like, experiences like, autobiographical experiences or biographical experiences in a time. But sort of, trying to put together these sort of, Black literature and this sort of like genre of writing in the 20s through the 50s of like, what is the American experience? Yeah, I mean, kind of like white male centric, really. But how do you sort of turn that on its head and like have those two sort of have empathy for one another?
Yeah, it is interesting because there were like, it was a, kind of parallel themes in literature, but they were kind of segregated even in literature,
Yeah. But I also think about like, an author I really liked at the time and still now, Carson McCullers. Um, and she also wrote, kind of about this, not poverty stricken, but, Southern, not well resourced sort of place and time. And, that echoes so much of the experience that, a lot of Black Americans and white Americans had in many periods of time, and especially in the South and even big cities. And so the stories are shared. And I think much like today, there are these imagined divisions among people when, like, really regardless of some of our differences, like if you are struggling, to have resources, you're struggling to have resources, and that's a shared experience.
Yeah.
They just don't want you to know that necessarily, like to have empathy with that other person.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really enjoying this record and this conversation so much, and the time is going fast.
Yeah,
But before we get to our last song, I do want to take a moment to thank the folks that make this show possible. Speaking of resources, I know a lot of us are, counting every penny, and it really means a lot when folks when they buy artists' music and when they support the shows and things that they love and the communities that feed them. And we want to thank these folks for keeping this community alive for 5 years. This show, which started as a live show, now as a podcast. And these are the folks that make it possible: Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Ellen, Chris, Becky, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead, Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Mary, Nikki, Joni, David, CJ, Wiley, Stephanie, Christy, Diane, Hetty, Sandy, Neighbor, Ann BZ, Alyssa, and our newest Patreon member, Paul. And maybe you, if you want to join our community, this is how you get invites to the live taping. So if you're like, oh man, I had so many questions to ask Lamar about this record. Well, this is how you do it. You get the invites and you get first look at all the guests and what's coming up on the podcast and back catalog listening party pint glass while supplies last.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you can enjoy the show from the comfort of your own couch.
And hang out with a bunch of music nerds every week, and cool artists and music nerds. So you can join us at patreon.com/back catalog listening party. But mainly just thank you for your ears. We're happy to have you in whatever way you are tuned into the show, whether it's joining us for the live taping or listening on the podcast. This is what it's all about: listening to music, and maybe discovering new old music that's new to you. So, which is so much fun to dig into this record, that I bet a lot of folks who even know your music now, Lamar, might not know your Jus Post Bellum music. So
they're in for an adventure. Something different.
It looks like we have time for one more track. And it looks like the last track queued up here is Lake, Minnesota. Is there anything you want to say about Lake, Minnesota before we give it a spin?
Yeah, this song is still kind of an enigma to me. It's very, if not allegorical, metaphorical, kind of obscure even to me. And I wasn't entirely sure what I was singing about. And it was really it's the last song on the record. And it's kind of one of the last songs I wrote in this period of this project. And it was kind of seeking a departure, seeking to be more into, just like these different type of arrangements and harmonies and whatnot. You can see one of my sons. You can come in here if you want. Get your shirt off. Come here. And just really leaning into the beauty of the human voice and also beautiful humans. And I was thinking about Minnesota, like I recorded both of these records in Cannon Falls. I should have mentioned that. And I shot sort of some of our last album art and stuff down in Cannon Falls, and was just starting to think about how do I tie things back to to home and that place of home. And maybe it was foreshadowing that, 3 years later I would move back home. But the loon makes its debut as sort of a metaphorical character for human. And again, sort of this abstract tragedy that you can't quite put your finger on what it's about, but you can tell that it's sad, but also like sweet and beautiful. I revisited it a couple years ago and thought about like adding some different or additional lyrics. And I don't know, I might do that at some point.
Are any of these songs still in your set?
No, none of them in my set. I noodled with that idea not too long ago, and I was like, I just don't know if I can do it. Maybe it's too soon.
Sure.
Maybe it doesn't make sense. But, listening yesterday back to this record after a long time, I was like, maybe I could do this song in a LAAMAR set in the right setting,
Yeah.
So never say never. It could happen.
Right on. Well, it's a good thing we get to enjoy it in its recorded form. We're going to close out our hour with LAAMAR. We're going to play a track from the band Jus Post Bellum, Lake, Minnesota, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Oh, what a perfect way to end the hour. That was Jus Post Bellum, LAAMAR's project with Lake, Minnesota from their 2013 album, Oh July. Connie says, wonderful songs. Thanks for a great show. And I agree. And man, we could talk for like 20 more minutes just about the arrangements on that song. But I do have to ask though, what is the wind instrument? Was that sax or what was the instrument?
Trumpet.
Trumpet. Yeah, I was going to say it didn't sound like a sax, but I was trying to figure out what it was.
Only slightly better than my banjo playing was my fake trumpet playing.
Sounded good to my ears. I don't know.
Yeah.
So play the few notes and just play the right notes,
Well.
Yeah. And some glockenspiel, Zach, our drummer, played. And
what was the string instrument that we were hearing?
Bass again?
It was the bass. Yeah, there was bass.
No, the picking. Was that just guitar? Or was
I think it was some type of guitar. Yeah. Maybe a classical. I think I was playing a classical guitar for part of that. Yeah. Classical.
Excellent. Well, again, sounds great. You folks should pick up this album because it sounds so dang good.
Fantastic.
And then we just heard 4 tracks from it. So you can check it out at Jus Post Bellum on Bandcamp, and then you can check out LAAMAR's new record on LAAMAR's Bandcamp page. We'll have these links in the show notes at backcataloglisteningparty.com along with the photos. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Yeah. What a pleasure. It was a pleasure I didn't know I needed to talk about some old music and reprocess, So thanks for the time.
Oh, that's our pleasure.
Our pleasure. And thanks to all of you for listening out there. If you like the show, please like it, review it, share it with your friends. And you can subscribe to our podcast because we do this every week. Not every week with LAAMAR, but with other great artists revisiting old records. So we hope you get out there, hear some live music, enjoy some old music. And we'll see you back next week for another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks for joining us on the Back Catalog Listening Party. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review, which helps more people discover our show and our guests.
And do you want to be a part of the live show, get a first look at upcoming guests, and receive invites to private online parties and live streams? Then join our Patreon community at backcataloglisteningparty.com.
Have a great week. We'll see you back here next Friday for another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party.